Hello singers! I am so excited because today we are doing our very first video in the Ask Whitney series. This is where I answer your questions about voice, singing, straw, and more. If you're new here, my name is Whitney Nichole, and I'm a vocal coach, singer-songwriter, and creator of The Singing Straw, a revolutionary tool that helps you build a stronger, healthier, and more balanced voice. More info and a link to get yours in the caption below. Are you ready to dive in? Okay, so this question comes from Steven, who is studying to become a vocal coach.
Hi, so I'm a vocal coach, or an upcoming vocal coach because I'm being trained. But I want to ask a quick question. When I'm doing the hiss, the what I'm trying to do is teach myself how not to tighten my stomach, but to allow my back muscles to engage instead of allowing my stomach muscles to engage. I don't want to lock my stomach muscles. What exercises can I do to help that?
Steven, I love this. You touched on so many good things with this question. Breath is one of those giant, always talked about topics in singing. However, considering how often we talk about it and how often singers use phrases like sing from your diaphragm and you need a bigger breath, there is a surprising amount of confusion and misunderstanding around how we can actually put the idea of diaphragmatic breath into practice and where and why it's most important. So I always like to begin my breathing conversations with a brief rundown of the physiology. Specifically, let's talk about the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle that sits below your rib cage, and as you inhale, the diaphragm contracts downward, allowing your lungs to expand and fill with air. Then, as you exhale that air, the diaphragm releases upwards, and that muscular movement, that relaxation upwards, helps to support the airflow in your singing. So the idea that you can breathe into your diaphragm is flawed. It's a muscle underneath your lungs. You cannot breathe into it. Also, the diaphragm is largely autonomic, which means we don't have control over it in the same way that you can flex your bicep or bend your legs. So yelling at students to sing more from your diaphragm is pretty unfair if you ask me. That being said, there are things that you can physically do that will make it harder for the diaphragm to engage, and things you can do to give it room to do its job. So that's where posture and alignment comes in. If you're sitting or hunched over, that muscle has very little room to expand and contract, so you're hindering its function. This is part of the reason that posture and alignment are so important with singing. So you want to make sure that you're sitting or standing tall. And again, with this, it's not thinking about like proper posture, tight or wonky. You really just want to think about open, aligned, easy, and natural. So once you've set up this nice alignment, I want you to focus on your inhale, okay? Because the inhale is what's going to engage that diaphragmatic contraction downwards. So I like to tell my students, imagine that your lungs are filling from the bottom up, like you're pouring a glass of water. And so what you said, Steven, about not locking your stomach muscles, that's key. The problem that singers can run into is that they think diaphragm, strong, muscle, engage, core muscles, tight, right? And they squeeze their ab muscles, those sit-up muscles, thinking it's gonna give you more power. But in reality, that's actually hindering what the diaphragm wants to do. So if you shut down that middle section and tighten, lock up like you were saying, that's actually going to make it harder for the diaphragm to do its job. So you don't want to squeeze our ab muscles, especially on the inhale. In fact, what we want to do is have that nice alignment and then relax our core so that as you inhale, you can fill up from the bottom of your lungs and you can allow your stomach expand from the middle out as well as from the back out. So you're feeling that expansion all the way around your waist. And then as you start to exhale, instead of focusing on tightening these muscles, I want you to focus on airflow, okay? So focus on flow, keeping that airflow coming out of your mouth as steady and as even and consistent as possible. This is where the singing straw comes in. And Steven, it's what you're working on with that hiss exercise that you're talking about. You see, as you make that hiss sound, you're able to actually physically feel the airflow. So singers use this to train their body to regulate airflow as it's coming out. And as you said, you're focusing on keeping your core loose, not tightening or squeezing or locking down, which is definitely what you want. But in order to keep that flow steady, we do actually need some slow, steady, and smooth engagement in specific muscles. So you can use the straw in this same way. So take a nice deep inhale and exhale out with a straw. As you're doing this, you guys, I want you to keep the airflow steady. So try to avoid any kind of bursts or ups and downs in the airflow. You're really just trying to settle into one nice flow of air. And it can go as long as you possibly can, but keeping the energy up until the very, very end. One more time. Inhale. While you're doing this, you're gonna feel certain parts of your body, ideally from the bottom up, that are starting to engage. And you can imagine that diaphragm, even though we don't have a lot of direct control over it, you can imagine that diaphragm as starting a chain of reaction that basically helps to push that airflow out through your lungs. Another cool thing we can do with a straw regarding breathing is add a visual component. We're gonna use a cup of water for this, you guys, and you may have seen straw phonation or tube phonation in water. It's definitely out there, and I actually think it's a cool addition to your voice practice. But what we're gonna do here is specifically targeting the visual flow of your air. So I'm gonna take my straw, I'm gonna put it in maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Remember when you're doing this, you guys, you're increasing the resistance by adding water, especially depending on how deep you go. So if it feels like you're already struggling to use a single straw or a small straw, no shame in bumping up to 2 for this exercise. So you're basically gonna put the straw in water, and then you're gonna exhale and focus on that airflow and those bubbles that you visually see being nice and consistent. So here we go. And I'm focusing on keeping those bubbles nice and even. I'm not getting like big bursts. Now you wanna take it up a level by adding some sound to that. So you can do a slide, or you can do a sustain note, or any of your favorite melodies, but you're gonna, again, be focusing on the visual of those bubbles. You want them to remain consistent the entire time. Nice deep inhale from the bottom up. Here we go. So I just did a slide from the bottom up, and I'm again watching those bubbles to make sure that they stay nice and consistent. Now remember, anytime you're singing with the straw or practicing with the singing straw, you're actually training yourself to hone in on that steady, even airflow, because the back pressure you're getting from the straw is directly related to how much air pressure you're pushing out from your diaphragm and your lungs, right? So if it's inconsistent or wobbly, you're gonna feel that in the straw. You're gonna feel more resistance and less resistance. So as you practice with the singing straw to find the sweet spot in your resistance, you're also finding the sweet spot in your airflow, which in turn is training your body, your intuition, to normalize that steady flow. So keep using your straw on all your exercises. Now last, I wanna leave you with my go-to exercise that I use for students when we're working on breath in lessons. This is the counted breath. So counted inhale, hold, and exhale, which I'll demo with a singing straw, although you can use a variety of other SOVTs, including a hiss, a lip trill, or a shh. All right, guys, so we are gonna inhale on 4, hold for 4, and then exhale out for 8. And on your exhale, you're focusing on steady, even, consistent flow. I'm gonna use a singing straw for this, but choose whatever you like. So here we go. We're gonna inhale on 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, out 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. So how did you do? Did you feel like you were able to keep that steady consistency throughout? So that 8, that last 8 count, I want you to be doing, right? You can add sound if you'd like to take it up a level. So I'll do that on this next example. I will inhale with you for 4, hold for 4, and then we're actually gonna go out this time with sound for 12. So here we go. We're gonna inhale on 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. 2. Now you can do that on any melody or pattern you'd like. In fact, another way to take this exercise to the next level is to add a scale or an arpeggio or a pattern melody and loop it on your exhale to see how long you can go. So you're gonna inhale this time with me on 4, you're gonna hold for 4, but then what we're gonna do, you guys, is we're actually gonna go into that long scale that we've done in exercises before. That is this. right? And what I want you to do is I want you to loop that and sing that as many times as you can until you run out of air. Again, focusing on flow, keeping that steady the entire time, all right? So first we're gonna inhale on 4, hold for 4, then loop that long scale with me. Now, if you don't know the long scale very well, feel free to do another melody. The idea is you're looping an intentional melody over and over until your air runs out. Here we go. We're gonna take an inhale on 1. That's all I think I had, but you probably have more, or maybe you do, or maybe you don't, but again, see how you're doing. And when you take this next level of the exercise, I do want you to start focusing also on pitch. So make sure that you're not falling flat as you loop through that exercise. You really wanna focus on steady flow and steady sound throughout. Steven, I hope that helps and gives you some extra exercises that you can try to really build that breath flow and ease awareness. And I'll leave a link in the caption so that you can submit your singing questions, and maybe you'll be featured in one of our upcoming Ask Whitney videos. If you enjoyed our first video in the Ask Whitney series, let me know with a comment down below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button along with the bell next to it so that you're notified when our weekly videos drop. I'm so glad you guys could join me today. I will see you next week, and happy singing.